Driving Business Forward, Harnessing 5G Cases in Enterprise, Part A. Today, as our moderator, I have the proud honor of introducing Mr. Dipayan Ghosh, who is a partner and works actively with markets globally in the telecom, media, and communications sector. And Sir brings a lot of expertise in the field of 5G, AI, ML. Dipayan, sir, please, if you could come on to the stage. We now request our esteemed speakers for the session to please come up on the stage. We have here with us Ms. Satkirti, CTO Airtel Business, Bharti Airtel. Mr. Mika, Head of Network Slicing, Nokia. Mr. Ajay Sehgal, CRO, Reliance Jio. Mr. Animesh Kumar, Vice President, Accenture. Mr. Jagadish, General Manager, Keysights Technologies. Mr. Pratyush Kumar, VP Sales and 5G Global Expert, Ceragon. Without further ado, Dipayan, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we start the panel today, harnessing 5G use cases for enterprise, I'm quite hopeful that it will be quite an enriching discussion today. And as we have seen in 5G over the last few years, that over the various markets globally, the number of subscribers around 5G has surpassed around 1.5 billion as on 2023. And this is primarily what I feel is because of 5G enabling a service-based architecture. There's a triad of 5G, which essentially has put in three major aspects around 5G, which is enhanced mobile broadband, URLLC, which focuses more on reliability and low latency, and thirdly, massive Internet of Things, which is primarily around focusing on high packet movement. Right now, with these triad, this is going to actually enhance how 5G is going to grow over the next few years. What it has also opened up is the ecosystem partnerships. And these ecosystem partnerships primarily are based on four key pillars. So you have the TSPs, or the telecom service providers. You have the IT services companies who are enabling all the use cases and the architecture with which the realization of 5G is happening. Of course, we have the network operators and the OEMs. Now, these four pillars and the amount of collaboration that we have seen over the last few years have actually ensured how 5G has grown. But having said that, there are a few challenges which are coming in that we are seeing, and we need to overcome that to ensure that 5G can actually catapult to a greater growth. Because today, when we compare India to certain countries like the Middle East, especially Kuwait, and if you look at the 5G connectivity index, while India is at 32 in the connectivity index, you have countries in the Middle East and countries in Asia Pacific who are hovering something around 59. So we have a lot to grow, and that is what we are going to focus on in today's session. In today's session, we will discuss about how the 5G ecosystem can grow further. We will spotlight on the use cases, what are the industry-specific opportunities, and implementation strategies, further collaborations, and partnerships. Now, in my panel, as Arnab talked about, we have our esteemed panelist. We have Pratyush Kumar, who is VP Pre-Sales in Ceragon. He focuses on the global sales and delivering value to service providers and mission-critical private networks. Mr. Kumar has been driven and supported hundreds of vast green and brown fields, 3G, 4G, and 5G network projects globally. His expertise primarily lies in, interpreting customer challenges and coming up with innovative and unique solutions which are customized for his customers. Then we have Mika Usitalo. He's the head of network slicing at Nokia. He has developed and introduced industry's first network slicing solutions for 4G, 5G, enterprise virtual private networks, fixed wireless access, 5G and multi-access edge, as well as edge cloud and applications together with CSPs and partners. Then we have Satkirthi M. She's the CTO of Airtel Business at Bharti Airtel. She brings over 25 years of experience in the telecom industry and spans across products, technology, marketing, business management for broadband and mobility. Currently, her most of the time goes in leading strategic projects that are focused on IoT, data center, NAS, private network, SD-WAN, etc. Then we have Ajay Sehgal. Ajay is the CRO in Jio. And with 30 years of experience, he has driven business growth across IT, telecom, and office automation. He excels in strategic planning, market insights, go-to-market strategies. Ajay's expertise includes B2B marketing, digital platforms, smart cities, cloud, 5G, and IoT. He also mentors cross-functional teams and develops future leaders. He has a strong background in M&A, process optimization, and building strategic partnerships and alliances. Then we have Animesh Kumar. He is a VP in CMT in Accenture. He is primarily expert in complex multi-tower deals, serving as a value architect, finding the best win-win options for clients and Accenture. He has successfully covered multiple strategy and digital transformation programs. With over 15 years of experience, he is constantly focused in digital transformation, client engagement, business analysis, and growth strategy. In his free time, Animesh enjoys traveling and exploring different cuisines around the world. Lastly, we have Jagdish Dantuluri. He is the general manager of network wireless solutions and private networks businesses at Keysight Technologies. He's also a board member in WG2 ecosystem and regulatory framework of the 5G Alliance. Jagdish leads development of a framework for certification, identify spectrum needs, and nurture the ecosystem to achieve 5G ACIA objectives. Jagdish had held various executive roles at mobile startups also, have been very glued on to the US market, and has an MBA from University of Chicago Booth, MS in telecommunications, and a BTech in electronics and telecommunication engineering. Thank you everyone for joining the panel. As we start, I would first like to start with Ajay. Ajay, in your experience with Jio, how do you see 5G shaping up in terms of business use cases, especially around IoT, manufacturing, and the likes?
First of all, thank you so much, and good afternoon to everyone. It's a very interesting topic, and while coming here, I was thinking that, what should I talk actually which is relevant, for the audience, actually, because I should not end up saying something actually which is very, very futuristic, because 5G is already there. And I'll divide my the answer in two sections. One section is actually before coming to the IMC, and second section is actually in the last 2 days what I've observed, and it's a good learning for me also as an individual as well as for us as an organization. What we were thinking versus what the customers are looking for, and it's a good insight. So let me share first the first part that Jio being already rolled out through 5G. We built up this dedicated 5G infrastructure and then roll out the overall 5G across all over India. And obviously now there are close to 130 million customers who are already on 5G using 5G. But that's one side of the story, that 5G rollout has happened. People have started using 5G on their mobile, but nothing major difference in terms of their life. What they were doing it earlier, according to me, similar stuff is happening. That's the reality, whether we like it or not, but that's the reality. That's one side of the story. And obviously in Geo, our observation and obviously it's not, I would not say it's only Geo, but all of us, we are seeing that we are experiencing that the AI, ML, which is two words which are being used multiple times. And our observation is that whenever we are engaging with any of the CIO of big or large or small organization, each and every CIO is saying that I am doing something. I think 4-5 months back, I was observing people were saying that I want to do something, but in the last 1 or 2 months, people have started saying that I am doing something in the name of AI. I don't know what's the roadmap, what is going to happen in next 1 year, 2 year time, but I'm doing something. One is actually there's a 5G is already there in the country. Second, everybody is talking about AI and AI will do ABC. So I'm also doing or trying to move in that direction. I don't know whether I'm doing ABC or but doing something. So that's one side of the story. Then, there's a lot of IoTification, is also happening in the country across the globe. A lot of assets are getting connected. Gone are the days where we were claiming as telco that we have connected cars, we have connected trucks, or we have connected vending machines. Now the IoT is also going to the next level, where one of the solution which with one of our partner which we displayed in the IMC is that there is a machine, and if you put 5 sensors in the machine, those 5 sensors are tracking the vibration, and basis abnormality in the vibration, the sensors are giving input to the operator that there is some abnormality in the machine. And obviously, I'm just trying to paint a picture that what's happening across the globe as well as in India in different verticals. Now, in the last 2 days, the experience is very different. After meeting few customers, and especially, manufacturing is one vertical. I thought, let me just bring that element to you. Then the last 2 days when we interacted with people, manufacturing vertical is one vertical which is coming forward and saying couple of things. Few customers told me कि मेरे को highway बनाना है. I don't know, you help me build the highway, which is a 5G highway. You build the highway. So when I asked what were you going to do on that highway, I said that leave it to me. Whether I'll drive a cycle or a scooter or a bus or I'll run a plane, but you just help me build the highway, and I will see later on what needs to be done. That is one stage, and that's also reality. On the second side, we are saying that there's another customer who is slightly in the mature stage. They are saying that you help me build the highway of 5G, but my requirement is that there is a security concern. My requirement is that my network should be my network. Because of my network, I should be able to do few stuffs which is me. And now yesterday one customer said that, can you give me, and obviously my answer was yes, but can you give me the process, what you do or what your network team does, for your customers by sitting in your office? Meaning that, can you help me that I have 10 users who need a high bandwidth SIM card. Can I cut that SIM card and give it to the user that these are the 10 SIM cards because you have a high bandwidth requirement. So these 10 SIM cards for the high bandwidth. Similarly, obviously 5G is helping us to remove or reduce the latency to a larger extent. Then he is saying that I have got 10 more customers actually who has a low latency requirement. Can I cut the SIM and give it to the user that you need a low latency SIM? So I am providing the low latency SIM, and all those 20 SIMs, and obviously there are 3 or 4 other elements also which he expressed, but because of time I'm not getting into there. So that's the kind of flexibility. Can you give it to me? Obviously the answer is yes, and the point which I'm trying to drive here is that 5G is no more only a 5G for your mobile phone. 5G is no more only a building up a highway. That's the starting point. 5G is that how can I give a flexibility? How can I create a secure element? How can I give that kind of flexibility with low latency or a high bandwidth as an example? And how can then I use that highway to automate? And obviously Jio is not limiting to only provide a highway or not only provide a SIM example, which I've given it to you. Jio is going one step ahead, that once your highway is ready, once your SIM cards, again as an example, that people have a flexibility as per their requirement. Obviously, Jio is also investing in a lot of these companies, whether those companies are working on, robots or they're working on, the IoT solutions. but we are investing in those companies so that we should be able to bring those solutions also to our customers once the highway is ready. So those are the few examples Navin, that which I want to portray here, that that's the way things are changing. What we are doing versus what customers are thinking, and how we are now trying to align our overall strategy in that direction, so that we should be able to go beyond creating highway, but also trying to create a slicing with the help of the slicing features which 5G provides. Now different lanes in that highway, so that people should be able to follow those lanes and do their requirement. One lane can be for cycle, one way can be for the aeroplane. So that's the way, that's the flexibility, which is coming forward, and we are moving in that direction actually, as far as the 5G is concerned.
Thanks, Ajay. Let me bring in Sakirthi here. Especially around real-time data processing and personalized products. What kind of advancements do you see in this area?
When you refer to personalized products, what exactly is it?
Which is 5G oriented personalized products that you are developing for allied sectors.
Okay. I think in terms of where we as an organization are getting ready is one, Ajay actually gave a very clear roadmap as to what the industry is expecting from us as operators. Second is on the anything which is personalized comes in with respect to a use case that is working with a particular industry. And if you look at the recent Industry 5.0 and things like that, we're just not talking about what 5G as a use case can do in terms of products, etc. But how is it that we can take it to the next level of actually custom making it to them, which is what personalization is all about. And if you look at the M&D sector today, which is one of the larger consumer of 5G, or the expectation from 5G is one in terms of precision, in terms of the work that they do, and second is in terms of how is it that you can actually increase the efficiency by actually having humans and robots working together to bring in one just synergy, but also have a resiliency that is there in the thing, and thereby actually looking at not creating a complete dependence, but also trying to bring down the cost, but at the same time bringing in far better speeds of productivity and faster time to deliver, thereby having 5G in terms of its capabilities and features largely around low latency and more concurrency and the throughputs that it can give, which can actually enable it for you to do it. And all the use cases or what the POCs that we're doing with our end customers are largely driven around it. So how is it that we sort of bottle it up together and then give it to them in that kind of a service that we do, not just in terms of private networks, but more in terms of specific use cases that we can work with them and then take it forward.
Thank you. Animesh, specific use cases and humans, robots working together, especially let's say around IoT, manufacturing or healthcare. What kind of implementation strategies do you follow as Accenture?
Okay. So I agree with Ajay and Sakirthi there that, over the last 2 years, we have seen a movement from pilots in terms of 5Gs to now large-scale deployments being happening now, right? So there's a lot of focus initially was on in terms of getting the POCs in place of 5G, understanding, what sort of implementation strategies might be there from these particular POCs and moving forward from there, right? Now, 5G we are seeing is playing a large role in terms of leading large-scale tech-related, reinventions for industries, and manufacturing is at the forefront of it at this particular moment, right? So in terms of manufacturing, right, with manufacturing in the past has relied heavily on, legacy network connectivity and infrastructure as such, right? So the example that Ajay was giving in terms of having, different IoT devices placed in terms of, a specific equipment in terms of vibrations and all, getting that data out, processing that data at the edge, right, at this particular moment to provide, a clear decision-making activity, skill rapid in terms of in real time. That's something that's been enabled by 5G right now. So that's one of the areas that we are seeing there, right? In terms, and in healthcare, it's more towards, using of 5G in terms of, having a reliable speed, basically, of 5G. And at the same time, ability to conduct remote monitoring of patients, right? So in Europe and in China, we are seeing a rise in terms of hospitals of so-called smart 5G hospitals being developed now, right? Now, in terms of implementation strategies, see, as an enterprise, an enterprise needs to look at it from a holistic perspective, right? So 5G is not just about getting a network up and running, right? It's more about ensuring that once the network is up and running, how does it integrate to the technology that you have, the processes that you have in place, and also the business model that the enterprise has, right? So the first aspect of it is getting the right business strategy in place, basically, or a business case for that specific, use case established, right? Seeing what the benefit of it is. That's the first one, right? Then you move on to things of, let's say, network architecture, security, and so forth, right? And what we have seen as Accenture is that enterprises are at the same time embrace the entire collaboration effort for it, right? So, for example, for any 5G deployment, you require a tech or a telco there. Yeah, you require a tech provider there. You require a hyperscaler in terms of cloud, in terms of edge also at the same time, and you require implementation partner for this, right? What we have realized is that as Accenture, we are uniquely placed there in this market in terms of an industry orchestrator, right? So bringing in our deep expertise with respect to industry and domain knowledge, and then bringing all these players together in terms of simplifying the complexities involved in terms of implementing these certain use cases, basically. Yeah.
Thank you. So, as you said, so you would need one of the key elements of this 5G implementation is that you would need an implementation partner. And of course, as we talked about the 4 pillars, right? So OEMs. OEMs is a very critical element of implementation. So I will come to Mika. Now, what role do you see Nokia and other OEMs performing in this implementation of these 5G use cases? Are you seeing focus into manufacturing and logistics primarily, as Ajay said, or are there other sectors coming up like healthcare?
So thanks, Coach, and thanks a lot for having opportunity to be here in the IMC and see the great momentum that is happening here in the India. Maybe I look this first from that perspective, how different enterprises are implementing, especially these enterprise mobile networks, and then how they are using those. So in general, I see that there are 2 ways to do the enterprise mobile network implementation, including, of course, the 5G as well. First is that you implement private wireless networks. And secondly, which is now starting to take off, which our colleagues were referring to as, is utilizing the operator's public network and implementing network slicing. So those are the main 2 streams or implementation schemes that we are seeing here. And of course, first, if you start with this private wireless implementation, it means that the enterprise need to build the network from scratch. So you need specific spectrums. You can get it from yourself, or you can it can be provided by the operator. And then you need to have, of course, on that environment, specific SIM cards, specific devices in order to leverage your network. And this kind of a private wireless network deployments for enterprise is typically a project. So you need to build the radio, need to build the kind of transport core, and of course you need to be able to integrate this network to the applications, whether they are enterprise environment or whether they are, for example, in the private or public cloud environment. And typically these kind of deployments are for mission critical. So this is isolated from the public network, and these are mission critical applications that the enterprises are looking after. Then the other segment that I was referring to is that more and more operators are focusing on the network slicing for enterprises. And here the key idea is that you use the public network, so operators' existing network assets, spectrum, coverage. And then you can implement sliced network, for example, in campus area, in city area, in regional area, or if the business of the enterprise is in wider area, you can of course utilize that. So the scalability is there. This is always an evolution of the operator's existing network. So you use the existing radio transport core, you implement there certain new capabilities, and you of course need to manage it so that you can have a slice for example, for this dedicated enterprise. And good thing from the network slicing perspective is that you can use all your existing devices. Not just 5G standalone, but also 5G NSA and LTE devices over there. And if we think about this from the deployment perspective, network slicing enables to build the service fast. So it's not the kind of a long-lasting project, but it's actually you can build it fast and you can deploy it fast based on the operators or actually enterprise customers' demand. So these are the kind of two major areas, and maybe you are familiar with the private environment, so maybe for your use case part of the question, I share some of the learnings that we have had when working with Nokia and operators globally in US, in Europe, in Asia Pacific, and in Middle East. These slice networks, there are leading operators who have already offering slicing services as a commercial service for their enterprise customers. We have had opportunity to work with the cases that you have implemented slicing for mining company, for example, in the campus area. We have been deploying slicing with the customer, for example, A1 Austria in railway company, national railway company. With Orange in France, we have been having opportunity to implement slicing capabilities in factory environment. So there are more and more different kind of use cases that can be deployed, and operators are now driving and pushing forward. So this is just the overview.
No, that was great, Mika. Thank you. Pratyush, in your area of work, right? And Mika talked about existing networks implementing 5G use cases, using network slicing. I believe the problem generally, or it becomes more challenging when, it's not a greenfield network. It's a brownfield on which you would need to implement 5G use cases. So what kind of challenges do you see, especially if it's brownfield? Can you sort of give a description in terms of generally sectors like manufacturing would essentially have a brownfield, whereas if we are talking about a relatively newer sector like, let's say, healthcare or telemedicine, we tend to have more of greenfield implementation.
Okay, so I'll take it differently. Okay, of course, I'll focus on the use cases, but I'll focus on how we, Saragon, can effectively provide, solutions, innovative solutions to connect different use cases. Let's take a story. Okay, so when we talk about a city development, okay, and modern city when it's developed, okay, street lights are there, but street lights do not play a pivotal role because in fact, they are so ubiquitous that we hardly notice them. Okay, but when we talk about, let's say, a city or narrative of a city of connectivity, then street lights can play can be a star of the show. The reason being, street lights, of course, can are visually identified because it gives light. But with our solution, we can provide multi-gigabit wireless broadband connectivity discretely sitting inside the fixture itself. Okay, so of course we know the importance of internet, but we know we have a different application. So how we can do this? So let's imagine we have a network of street lights that of course illuminate the night. Okay, but this also provides a multi-gigabit wireless mesh kind of connectivity, which can be used for thousands of sensors to connect thousands of sensors, which can be like machine to machine communication, different IoT applications, cameras, surveillance, and of course like community engagement and different kind of local economics. Okay, so with this kind of solution, what do you achieve? What do you achieve? So we can use these kind of solution for different use cases. I'm talking about, let's say, smarter campus connectivity, smarter city connectivity, smarter building to building connectivity, smart transport solutions, maybe connecting different IoT devices, and of course real-time monitoring and handling the data transmission of those IoT devices and handling it remotely. So all these things can be done through this, of course, this kind of concept. So the idea is that we provide a unique solution which sits on, of course, not on the, we don't need any additional infrastructure. We can sit discretely on the same streetlight solutions and we can connect everything. So this is one of the use case where wireless can effectively be used for enterprise use cases. One of the other solution that I can think of course, this can be used for mining infrastructure as well. This can be used for campus connectivity, municipality connectivity, because we're not talking about one or two sensors, we're talking about thousands of sensors that can be connected. The other use case I can think of course, you have not mentioned, but I want to highlight because this is one of the new things or innovative things that we are doing. When we talk about cruise vessels or ships or ferries on the sea, years back, they need just a small communication that needs to be sent. Okay, but nowadays, if you go for a cruise for a day or 2 or 4 days, one of the luxury feature that is being offered by these cruises is high data speed connectivity. And because when we go to the cruise, we want to have video calls, we want to watch the videos. So that's one of the new things that that is being offered. Not only this, there are a lot of real-time applications that needs a very high data connectivity. So what are the solutions, how we can connect? I'm talking because we come from a connectivity solution. So if it is a ship or a vessel on the sea, how do you connect it? You cannot lay a fiber, unfortunately. Of course, we can use satellite communication. But the problem with satellite communication is that it's low bandwidth. And the latency is, in the best case, around 400 to 600 milliseconds. So we cannot rely on the real-time data applications to work on this kind of high latency. Yes, of course, we can use microwave. Okay, we can provide very low latency. We are talking about microseconds latency. And of course, we are talking about very high-speed connectivity, 1 Gbps, 5 Gbps, 10 Gbps. But the problem is that the vessel is moving, in the sea. Okay, so you cannot have a connectivity for the microwave. Of course, even if the ship is stable, sitting, standing in a sea, still because of the waves, it's shaking. So what we do with our unique innovative solutions, it's basically concept of a in-house developed gyro-stabilized solution. Even if the ship is moving, it's stable with the sea, we make sure the connectivity is maintained, and that too in multiple gigabits of capacity and with very, very low latency. So these are the two concepts or two innovative ways how wireless can effectively be used for different use cases.
Thank you so much. Jagdish kept you waiting for long. Sorry for that. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you are doing as a part of the 5G Alliance in ensuring a couple of areas, right? So there's a standard maintained in terms of standards, in terms of certifications, so that companies as consumers of 5G use cases, they can sort of rely on a certain standard for implementation?
Yeah, sure, thank you. So let me first explain what 5G ACIA is. Many people don't know what 5G ACIA is. But before I go there, I work for Keysight. 5G ACIA, Keysight is a test and measurement company. 5G ACIA is an international alliance that basically brings disparate parties. For example, in the industrial networking, particularly for the smart manufacturing, if you see the stakeholders, they are the end users, let's say Volkswagen, Tesla, Toyota, who are the manufacturers, or you can be the NEMs like Nokia, Ericsson, Keysight, who understand the telecommunication technology but may not understand the end user problems really. The end users understand their own problems, but they not understand the technology, which is the telecommunications. So what this 5G SA organization, it brings these two disparate parties to the table and tries to understand what the problems of the end users, which can be the manufacturers. I just told auto manufacturers, it can be any manufacturer, process manufacturing or discrete manufacturing. And the idea is to bring those problems to the table, and the other party understands and take that by various discussions to the standard bodies to make that standardized. That is not the only thing that we do at 5G ACIA. We also study the impact of any changes or how to enable the ecosystem. If we see today, one of the biggest barrier of industrial private networks adoption is not only the high cost of the network, non-availability of the devices. It's relative, cost is relative of course, but comparatively the industrial networks is high cost. Lack of devices, if you see a pie diagram, around 8% of the devices are the industrial networking devices. Other 92% is just the commercial phones. So the ecosystem cannot survive or cannot adapt. So not only that, and lack of expertise, not able to accurately put forward what is the return on investment of any investment. So all those challenges are there to basically go towards the industrial networking. So what we do is we enable, or we try to enable, it's not that we are specialists and we can solve everything. We try to enable that ecosystem through 5G ACIA. So this organization was formed by some of the leading organizations like Bosch, Siemens, Nokia, Ericsson form a key part, Capgemini, and few other things. So that is part of the 5G ACIA, long answer. But as far as the certification itself, typically the way certification works is 3GPP has bodies, which is RAN 4, RAN 5, which kind of creates certifications, and then the device vendors have to go through that certification. Many times even the cell site vendors also have to go through that certification. For industrial networking, right now there is no specialized certification. The way that it is being done is the certification is a part of the 3GPP certification, but with a few advanced tests for industrial networking. 5G ACIA, the way that we help is we take the end user perceived requirements on the real requirements to the standard bodies, and the standard bodies put them in the certification. That's how we are trying to solve.
Right. And just a question, so some of the students out here might have is that can they take an individual certification?
Can?
Individual certification as a student member? Or is it only for at an organization level?
So there are again challenges there. So for example, this is an iPhone, Samsung for any phone. It typically takes about $1 million to get this certified. $1 million. And so you also, that's the reason you don't see many device vendors. You hardly see on your hand, you can measure how many leading device vendors are there. It's very expensive. What students can do is probably do a few experiments, but to get the real certification, it's not practical. Can they do it? Is it impossible? No, but it's not practical.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much. I'll come back to Satkirti and Ajay. Now, here, so Airtel and Jio as telecom operators, where telco is a sector of sectors, right? Where you are basically developing telco plus solutions to provide to allied industries, right? And Pratyush talked about ships. So do you also see Airtel or a Jio, and one by one, maybe Satkirti, you can first answer, uh, providing 5G use case implementation to shipping companies and logistics companies, especially where probably a private 5G would be required?
Definitely yes. At least in terms of the logistics, it's extremely. I think 5G would be very very relevant. And if you look at today, logistics and entire movement of inventory, etc., which is a challenge for large, even in terms of as a use case. If you look at the industries, mines, shipping yards, and manufacturing industries are the three big industries that actually 5G will work very very well with, even in terms of the use cases that we developed or with whoever partner we partner with, OEMs, etc. These kind of solutions become very much more apt. If you look at logistics today in terms of the entire inventory, and I remember when we did the entire 5G launch, drone as an example, that we worked with an OEM and then we brought it across, was one of the key factors of 5G as an example, that we can how fast we can actually inventorize and be able to actually move it faster to the end consumer. And actually, even if you look at the entire shipping yards that you're saying, whatever that comes in terms of consignment, the entire process of end-to-end management, that is from when it lands to your e-way bill, to your gate pass, to your entire inventory, to for it to go hit the end consumer and end delivery, everything can be done with 5G, both in terms of not just capturing every single information that is available, but also to have the end-to-end life cycle built into the entire tooling system that is there. So, which very categorically, I mean, he gave a farm example of cruise, etc., that is there, and which is obviously an extended arm of that. But if you look at what we can do, and also in terms of the mining industry, right? Today, which I'm just mentioned, saying that obviously it has certain areas where it is impossible for humans to be working for longer hours. So how is it that we can get 5G there, get a robot, etc., to do these kind of things and be able to actually cull it out and then move the material, etc., out from there? Those are also things that we just capture. I think that's where we're becoming more relevant in terms of providing these use cases to our end consumers.
Yeah. Ajay?
Yeah, since Satkuti has already talked about the logistics and the mining, instead of repeating, let me just give a couple of more examples. So one obviously is that for our audience, private 5G. Everybody is talking about private 5G, and obviously that's the enterprise way of engaging on the 5G side. So there are two use cases. I was initially giving example of building a highway. Now just think about a manufacturing, and let me give you two examples. Manufacturing, which applies to, let's take a factory example, which applies to any kind of environment. And the real problem in the factory is that there are machines, and those machines has a lot of cables. That's a real time issue of any factory. If you have to make any change, in the overall lathe machine, the workflow, there are so many cables that becomes too tedious to make any change. Now just think about a scenario which is the future, that you convert that factory into a private 5G. So apart from the couple of areas which I talked about initially, that it's going to give you flexibility, security and all, it makes life so easy for a factory operator to operate factory and make changes on a real-time basis. Just think about it, that if this is a factory and there are machines all over, and there is no cable, because now you have rolled out a private 5G in this factory environment. So if there is no cable, if you have to make any change in the factory, it's easy. It's super easy. I'm saying, I'm just trying to simplify and oversimplify things, that how it, and obviously it is the reality, that if you convert a factory into a private 5G network, there is no cabling requirement, life becomes much more easier, factory becomes much more efficient and productive. One more example, I want to give it to you is that, we have a big challenge of ambulance. And in ambulance, actually, currently don't look at it that only a camera, that doctor is sitting somewhere and giving a remote, the support. Now think about a 5G enabled ambulance, and that's going to come very soon from Geo. That if there is a 5G and we are doing a testing with few, hospitals. Now a 5G enabled ambulance meaning that there are 5G radios installed inside. So it's a full-fledged 5G enabled ambulance, which is not only giving a video that somebody nurse is there and there is an accident. Now the patient is there inside. There is a nurse actually who's not fully trained, but the remotely the doctor is sitting in the hospital and there is a 5 kilometer distance. That's the practical problem statement. Now apart from giving a video, which obviously even 4G can give the video call. So there's nothing great in that part. If I say that 5G is there now, it's going to give a video support. But there are equipments which are getting installed, in the ambulance. Now those equipments needs to read the vitals of a patient. That is more critical for a doctor to give a real-time support. It's not only that I am a doctor sitting there, there's a nurse, actually I'm just talking. But talking is not going to help. Mean that video conferencing is not going to help. There is a equipment needs to be installed because the patient is not going to wait. If there is an urgency, the doctor support is required there and then only. Actually, equipment needs to be installed. The vital needs to be measured. With a low latency, the vital needs to be visible to the doctor, so the doctor can then do the key activity with the help of that. I think that's the change. I'm not elaborating it further, but that's the change which is going to happen, in next few months. It's not a futuristic, which I'm going to talk about. You will see that big change, which is going to come actually in the next few months. These are the realities which are going to come. Factory without any cable, ambulance will fully loaded with all the equipment which are required to give the right treatment, actually, not the video conferencing, a right treatment. So those are the realities which are going to come. So I understand there was a big struggle few months back that 5G is there, but there is no use case. But the things are changing, and things are changing very fast. You are going to see a lot of use cases which are real time, and those use cases are really going to take or leverage the low latency and a security element. Because if it is private 5G, there is a security. Low latency is anyway part of the 5G which is going to come up. So these are the kind of use cases. So now we are observing that there are a lot of low latency hungry use cases which are in pipeline waiting for somebody to build that part. My observation and feedback is, again, basis the last 2 days discussion, that even if somebody is creating a highway, there are n number of people who will create different vehicles actually which needs to be run on the highway. Meaning that a lot of use cases which are going to come up very soon.
Already gave you a feedback and recommendation. I was actually going to come to that. So we are almost at the top of the hour. So before we close, I just wanted to go through the entire table and ask each one of you if there is one single recommendation that you would like to give to your customers, partners who are looking at implementing a successful 5G use case. And I'm stressing on the word successful. There can be n number of use cases that we already have, but if certain areas are not looked into, it will be a faulty implementation. At the end of the day, those faulty implementations are the ones that lets you believe that we don't have use cases, it is not of use, and there's no point going ahead with it, right? So very briefly, in 5-6 words, what would be that single most important recommendation? We start with Animesh.
Other than the entire business case, the business need, and so forth, I think one is the entire network architecture. So you need architecture that is flexible and scalable for 5G at enterprises, and the entire security aspect of it, right? So with multiple devices coming into play, you're going to have a situation where you need a zero trust security mechanism established on your particular network to ensure that you are proactively, protecting your network from any attacks and so forth. Right? These two.
Thank you, Mika.
Okay, thank you. So, like I discussed here, and especially I want to highlight the importance of the network slicing. There are already globally operators implementing that to multiple use cases, like I was referring, Orange in the Schneider Electric factory environment, A1 with the logistic company ÖPP in Austria, Telia, for example, with mining company Sandvik. And then maybe to watch what is happening, which I didn't mention yet, is what is happening in the US. So in the US, especially TMO US is driving the network slicing and then the competition against AT&T and Verizon. And they just a few weeks ago did announcement with the first responder, so public safety police department in the New York area, and they say that with the network slicing, you can implement much more better than if you use dedicated frequency bands. So the game is on also, but it's a wide scale of different applications and use cases that also the network slicing can enable.
Right. Pratyush.
I think we have very good words or good discussion on different use cases about the mining, shipyards. We have a use case of medical ambulance, and I was thinking to say that okay, all these things can be connected wirelessly. This is what I was trying to highlight. But I believe this is going to come for sure. Okay, has to come. But one of the things that is becoming very important is we cannot live without internet. Okay, maybe we can live without electricity for a few hours, but without internet it's becoming hard. So the smarter campus connectivities or smarter, let's say, municipality connectivity so that we can connect thousands of sensors. This is something which is going to come very, very soon. And everybody wants to have, we have some booths where we have, let's say, there are drains which have some sensors so that, when the drain is coming up or, it gets a notification. So all these things probably are going to come much faster, I believe, it's my perception. Because that is also going to come, but this is a problem that everybody is facing. So smarter city needs to have all these kind of things, which is going to come very soon.
Right. Jagadish.
So, as part of the global organization, we do we survey and we do get survey result. I would say keep it very, 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 very simple. There is a huge demand of having a connected worker or a connected device. Why is that important? A connected device gives an ability. It tells you whether something is connected or not. That data that is collected can be used to increase productivity. Just keep it that. There can be use cases like low latency, other things that may come later. But right now, the requirement is just to get connected.
And lastly, Satkirti, closing remarks and your advice to people.
I think I would just go with what Jagdish was saying. I mean, connected user case is really, really important, and I would look at how today for us, in terms of getting the right resources in remote areas, gets so much more difficult because you can't have the same expertise that you have with a lot of people. And one is connected users, and the ability to actually troubleshoot, etc., would really help in difficult situations. The second thing I would look at is healthcare. I mean, it's very, very close to my heart, and I feel like healthcare is a huge opportunity on 5G. And in terms of precision and ultra-low latency, I mean, I know Ajay just did mention about what's happening, but we've been talking about it for a couple of years right now from when we launched 5G. And I think this is a huge recommendation to the healthcare industry that this is something that we really can use. Because as we speak, we still have a large part of India which is not covered with the same capability that we have. And if technology can get you through that, I think nothing like it. And I mean, we would like to see the rest of India actually, at least a remote part of India, get the required healthcare that they need at this point of time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this panel. It was quite enriching and pleasure talking to all of you. Thank you.